Picture this. It's the beginning of the week, a Tuesday, early evening. You got a little free time on your hands, so you decide to do a chore that you didn't get to do over the weekend. You wanted to wash your car. Yeah, it's easy enough to just take it to a car wash, but it's something that you really enjoy doing yourself if your schedule permits. So, you grab your bucket, your sponge, rags, and shampoo, go outside, and get to scrubbing. You lather it up, hose it down, then step back to admire your work. Suddenly, you're attacked from behind, and out of instinct, you immediately fight back. You start tussling with your assailant, only to realize that there's more than one. You twist and turn, struggle and fight, and in a flash, it's all over. Now you're wondering, was it a dream or was it real? Sadly, it would take 33 years to find out. If you didn't have an Acura Legend, Infiniti Q45, or a Nissan Maxima back in 1989 or 90, you wasn't it. Those were some of the hottest cars on the streets in those days. All the so-called hood superstars had them, or at least wanted one. I know the manufacturers didn't expect dope dealers, robbers, and scammers to latch on to their products, but they did, and it helped make those particular vehicles popular. The intended customer demographic they were looking for had them also, but the stigma behind those cars sometimes made it rough for the everyday citizen to own one, especially minorities. If you were young, black, and drove around in any one of those vehicles, you knew you were getting pulled over by the police. That's a fact. But that didn't stop anyone from buying them, especially in New York. Local city and state workers flooded the municipal credit union with car loan applications in order to get one. And one of those city workers, Police Officer Troy Patterson, had a nice one. A brand new silver Nissan Maxima to be exact. And he kept it clean. The recently engaged 27-year-old was a 6-year veteran of the NYPD. In such a short time, he had already racked up 7 commendations for his police work. He lived and worked in Brooklyn and was one of those officers on the rise in the department. On Tuesday, January 16, 1990, Officer Patterson was off duty and decided to go outside and wash his prized Nissan Maxima. He lived in an apartment on Halsey Street in the Bedford-Stuyvesant section of Brooklyn. His car was parked 2 blocks away on Jefferson Ave in front of an elementary school. Brooklyn street parking was and still is terrible. He had no choice but to set up there and wash his car. It was relatively warm that day, with the high being 55 degrees in the middle of the winter. That was perfect weather for getting in a quick wash before it got dark. It was around 5:40 p.m., and unbeknownst to Officer Patterson, 3 individuals were scoping him out. They spotted him washing his car, and they collectively decided that he looked like he'd be easy to rob, so they rolled on him. One of them grabbed him from behind and put him in a chokehold, while the other 2 tried to keep him still. A struggle ensued, and then a shot rang out. The assailants panicked and took off running, taking nothing, leaving Officer Patterson lying in the street. He was shot once in the head. The bullet passed through his brain and lodged in his left ear. He never regained consciousness. Almost a week went by before the police had any real leads. Initially, they thought a gunman in a blue car had shot Officer Patterson. Investigators theorized that the assailant might be someone the officer had previously arrested. At the time, the detectives ruled out robbery as the motive because the assailant did not steal an officer's gun, wallet, keys, or jewelry. But after several days of tracking down people whom Officer Patterson had arrested, the detectives received an anonymous tip that suggested he had been a robbery victim chosen at random. The detectives began concentrating on teenagers who lived along Jefferson Avenue near the site of the shooting. They went door to door in search of witnesses. On Tuesday night, January 23rd, detectives arrested 3 youths who lived on Jefferson Avenue: 15-year-old Tracy Clark, 20-year-old Vincent Robbins, and 17-year-old Darian Crawford. After a night of questioning and a day of having witnesses identify the youths in lineups, the police charged Tracy Clark with attempted murder, attempted robbery, assault, and criminal possession of a weapon. Vincent Robbins and Darian Crawford were charged with attempted robbery, assault, and criminal possession of a weapon, but not with attempted murder. Robbins and Crawford claimed that they were not aware that Clark had a weapon and was going to use it. Tracy Clark, who was a student at Automotive High School in Brooklyn, is believed to have pulled a .38 revolver from his jacket and shot Patterson. The 3 youths belonged to a basketball team in the United Brooklyn Basketball League, which held tournaments at the St. Peter Claver Recreation Center on Jefferson Avenue, right down the block from the scene of the shooting. Each player had to pay $35 for a uniform, so the 3 decided to rob someone because Clark was short $20. Officer Patterson ended up being the victim. Patterson spent more than half of his life in a vegetative state after being shot in the botched robbery. His mom, Catherine Patterson, cared for him every day until she was debilitated by multiple sclerosis. After she died, Patterson's aunt, Doris Patterson Brown, took over her care, and after she died, it has been his Aunt May. Patterson was promoted to detective in 2016. Every January for the past 30 years, a vigil was held for Officer Patterson by the NYPD at the location of the tragic incident. Unfortunately, Troy Patterson died on April 29, 2023. He was laid to rest May 5, 2023, 33 years after the shooting. He leaves behind a son, who's his namesake, and 2 granddaughters.